Dr. Khaled, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Dr. Abla. Before everything,
Maybe all of you know that I am working in the field of real estate at large. It's the first time for me to see the work of the fund, and I have to admit that it's really distinguished kind of work if compared to other sectors in Egypt. I'm sorry I cannot hear because she's not holding the microphone. She's not holding the microphone. I'm really sorry I cannot hear. Actually, when I talk about digitalization in the real estate sector, I have to take the first 2 to 3 slides to try to unify our thoughts or ideas so that with the previous workshops that was held. We have selected the real estate sector to be in one of the workshops talking about digitalization. I'm reminding you that these kinds of workshops we're talking about digitizations in the government. Why? Because of the digitized economy. It's not the objective because we are looking at the digitized economy or digital economy. So let's look at the real estate sector. The real estate sector in Egypt represents in the doing business indicator has two main indicators. The first one is getting the building license. In 2018 we were 266 and 2019 we were two points backward, it's 268. And the second one is the real estate registration. Our rank was 219 and now we are 125. The second thing, the collapse in the real estate prices in the whole world, when it's 10% down, normally the other related economies gets collapsed by 20%, increased by 20%, because 10% of the property rights has decreased, and then another 10% of the wealth right has decreased. So it has two axes. The wealth was minus 2 axis, and the problem is that it's not in this sector because this sector has many other sectors related to it, maybe directly or indirectly, and it might be collapse radically, like for example cement, iron, ceramic, electricity, all of these industries related to this sector, and labor even. So we said that we have to talk about the real estate sector and have a separate session for it. So simply speaking, in order to say that I will do a digital economy, I have to see the real estate sector and how the digitalization can work in it. So what is digitalization or digital economy? So we have to understand what is meant by it so that we will be unifying our thoughts. There are many definitions for digital economy worldwide, but we have selected one simple definition in our requirements here in Egypt. So if we have different economic sectors and if we digitize it, we can get digital economic indicators just like efficiency, performance efficiency, growth rates, and then the contribution in GDP, and then direct or indirect investments volume. This is what we want. So the digitization of the different economic sectors would lead to extrapolating economic indicators that in order to adjust the policies of such sectors according to the stability of these indicators. So if an inflation took place, for example, in the real estate sector in certain areas, so I have to go with another policy in order to let the price go down. If there is some sort of stagnation, I have to go. So the sector is managed by its own policies, which is based on the indicators that came out of the digitization of such a sector. So now, what are the economic indicators that we can derive from the real estate sector? First, the volume of contribution in the GDP. Can anyone say what's this figure? I tried to look for it, and found that the Ministry of Planning said 1.6 and the housing said 22%. And I know it's not you, I know. The planning said it's 6.1. The Ministry of Planning said it's 6.1, and I have the statement. The problem here is that we do not say 18.92%, because if I am a digital economy, I would say 18.2%. But here I'm saying it by kilograms. Like 22, just 22. You know what's 22? What does it mean? It means 1/5 of the economy is based on real estate. So what happens to the agriculture sector? So this is so what is the volume of direct and indirect foreign investments in this sector? Nobody knows. The volume of local investments. And also, do we have a property price index? So that does the government has given me a price index that tells me that the تجمع الخامس or the fifth settlement, the average price per square meter is so. Do we have a housing affordability index? And I guess this really matches with what you are working on. Housing affordability index. Then the middle income class in the society can take a real estate unit with such a characteristics or features. And then also you can take from here, I don't want to go deep down into a lot of indicators that we really need for a very important sector, but we don't know anything about. Now let's take another, the contribution of real estate sector to the GDP in other countries. In the USA it's 6.2 and it's 1.2 trillion. And then in the US Statistics Office in 2013 or 2014 said that the volume of sovereign revenue, federal sovereign revenue that comes from real estate transactions is 25.1% of the total federal revenue that comes in. In Australia, it was 49.1%. So Australia is, I'm talking about GDP, 6.5 of the GDP. Canada is 20% plus. Dubai, it's 7.1. So what about us? If I ask anyone, he said that this is the most critical sector that we have in Egypt, the most economic critical sector. But we all know it just by lump sum, oh yeah, or just by approximation. But we have nothing in hand to say that this is really the most critical sector in Egypt. So let's go back to another important point. When we started first, in the first workshop, we said that the best or the optimum model for any sector to be digitized or digitalized, there should be a group of steps that it should go for. The first one, it has to set its own objectives. And then the second one is to see the current status. And then study its objectives. Are they applicable or could be achieved or viable? If they found that there is a problem, we will come out with some weaknesses. So getting to know all of this, we can build the new model or the new form that it should work on so that it can achieve its objectives. And then later on, we can say the kind of technology that it needs. So because the technology for me is a tool. So let's apply this to the real estate sector. If I want to say that the digitalization of real estate sector, what is its objectives? I cannot put all the objectives in behalf of the Ministry of Housing, but I can say that the most important one is to put it in focus as a very important sector. And then the second thing is to attract foreign and local investments, and then increase the governance level in its procedures. You all know about the violations or contraventions in building sector. Look at Alexandria and the amount of buildings that collapses. Now, and also increasing the governance level, which will be positively reflected on the number of building violations and then also compliance with urban plans. If we open the window here, you know what I mean. Look around. Those who have issued building licenses, have they complied with an urban plan? Also, the increase of sovereign revenue collections through converting the informal economic sectors into informal ones, and then also building a model for extrapolation and for analysis and for risks, and also increase the ability of the Ministry of Housing to readjust its policies as through the stability of the economic indicators. These are the strategic objectives that the Ministry of Housing should look at in the digitalization of the real estate sector. So let's look at one thing. It's the work cycle of issuing building licenses, the current situation. So if I apply it, is it as a system? Will it be able to achieve my objectives? Yes or no? According to the law 119 of 2008 and its executive regulations, which was issued in 2009, I have to get a validity certificate and sign a contract with an engineering office, and then I receive the license. And then if I didn't receive it within 30 days, that means it has been approved. So let's look at this objective. Will the current situation of issuing the building licenses meet such an objective, which is increasing the level of governance, which is positively reflected on limiting violations of building plans and also compliance with urban plans? So what is the problem in the working cycle of issuing the building license? I have NUCA, which puts the plans and draws out the policies of the urban plans and puts urban plans and detailed plans for everything in Egypt. And we have the administrative entities, which is in the local municipalities. So let's talk about the NUCA is new communities, but let's talk about municipalities, because we always leave the main problem, and then look at the new one and then build something new. So we keep the crisis as it is, just like a snowball. So the engineering office in the municipalities, if I look at it, it issues the licenses and then follows up the violations. So this person in the engineering offices, so this one is planning person, the other one is enforcement. Who controls that what has been planned is enforced? No one. No one. I want to tell you one thing. The license has been issued. Who says that this license is matching to the urban plan? Because it has been issued already. So the solution here is the regulatory law, regulating on what? That implementation would only be done according to the urban plan. So the regulatory role is not there, is missing. So matching the design to be implemented on the urban plan. This is a very bad procedural confusion or discrepancy. So what is needed? It needs to be restructured. So it needs to be restructured like everyone. It needs a regulator to regulate housing or building. It takes the urban plans, and the one who wants to issue a license, before he gets the license, he has to get the approval of the regulatory agency that it matches the urban plans. So what's proposed? The work cycle is here. I take the validity certificate and the contracting, and then I receive the license. So the new cycle will be, we have to put the engineering office to be approved by the regulator, because when it does the design, so the design should be, because as long as he is accredited, so the design should be matching the urban plan. Then he will submit the documents, and then the utility will get the approval, and then we'll send it to the entity to get the license. This will take us back to a very important point. that now I am quite sure. This is a very simple example. I cannot explain everything. It's a very simple example. It's a simple example for restructuring that can happen in this place in the digitalization system. So this very small example, I want to tell you that if I am doing this and issuing the license, so what happens if we do the building violation? The municipality will go and get this violation and send the violation to the police station for implementation. This is the legal route. There is another path which we know that while the report is sent to the police station would say that there is a security study, so the violation will stay there. So when the administrative prosecution will start to do an investigation with the municipality, they will say that no, I am innocent, I have sent it to the police station, because he did the enforcement role and the regulatory role, and this is a problem here. So if I send it to the implementation and then he sent me the violation, no, now here the cycle would be completely different. So we need to see where we are now. We are here in this spot. This is how the system looks like after it was built. Did I say anything? Is there a computer? Is there any server that's needed? I didn't say anything. I didn't touch upon any of these things. So the digitization here means that I should reach to the core of the situation, how the system would look like. And then later on I can say, here I need a cloud, or to change the mood. Yes, change the tone. I need a cloud here, I need a system here. So after this, what can I say? I can say that I have achieved this. So I have to say that all the new licenses have to match the urban plans to decrease the level of building violations, and also to survey the different licenses issued for building countrywide. I can also say, because there is a central entity that does the regulation, I can say that there should be a survey of the real estate units that are offered, because I know if there is a certain license that's issued in a certain small area in Motobas that with 10 floors, so I know what's available in units. And also we can do a certain pattern for the different engineering applications. I'm sorry to say this, because put this because it's a crisis. If you go to any compound, you will find that your eyes gets very happy. Your eyes very easy. Everything is symmetric. The buildings are the same type, same color. Go out of the fence of such a compound. Go out of the fence, and then walk in the streets. You will find that each villa has a different architectural design, different color, different everything, different style. You have seen in the US movies, all the buildings in one street are in the same way, because I can impose a certain code, the color code. If you build in Korba, you have to do the same pattern. And if you build in the fifth settlement, you have certain forms to follow. I always take this. There is a villa here, and then a blue one, and then the one follows is red, and then the other one is yellow, desert yellow. I'm sorry to say, it's a very bad. It looks really very bad. I don't want to say bad words about it. And the other thing, the worst crisis in registration, the most important problem, is what's called the survey identification list. You have to go to the ESA, Egyptian Survey Authority. By the time they provide you with an engineer, and then measure and then find the easement rights, and also the space between you and the neighbor, and your share in the roof and in the basement. So we as a utility, you have to do this kind of survey identification form, because the consultant will do it, and then he will approve it by the survey authority. So maybe this is all restructuring. So let's forget about this. When we when you get what's the occupancy validity certificate, you have to give me this certificate after putting the borders. So this flat, for example, was 162, and after it was built it became 163 net area. So there should be one identification number countrywide, one real estate identification number countrywide. So thank you very much.